the signals, goes back to throw. Now looks to take off and run. Elway inside the 10 and dives over the 5-yard line. Great play. Great play by John Elway. Just phenomenal.
Check swing roller. Tulowitzki. Colorado's the National League champion.
Jokic has to put it up. Falling away, puts it up. Bang! Nikola Jokic knocks it down. His foot was on the line. A two-pointer. What a shot.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into Talking BS. I am your host, Steven Zamora. Thank you for being here with me. You can follow me on Twitter at ZamoraBSB. Go ahead and follow at BoxDayBoys303 for any and all show updates. Today, we're going in talking about clips of the week, happening the week prior to this one. We're also going to go into a little bit of an article that I ended up writing. What's funny is it was actually like my show breakdown or whatever. And the way that I wrote it out, I was like, man, you know, this really kind of looks like a Bleacher Report type article, especially because it's a trade article. So I was like, you know what? Let me put this as an article. I'm going to go ahead and put it out for you guys so you guys can go ahead and read it. But I'm going to go over that today, talk about some of my favorite trade targets on the article itself, and, you know, kind of get everybody ready to go and to go check it out, you know, get some hype behind it for real. We're also going to go cover the rest of next week, what we got coming up. Some very, very big games, including Philadelphia, including Boston. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But without further ado, thank you once again for being here. And let's get into the clips of the week.
First year with the Jazz, spent his first 6 seasons in the league with Atlanta. Jokic firing down court to Porter for the easy 2. He had 19 points in the win at Philly and 19 in the win at Milwaukee in their last 2 games, and shot almost 70% from the floor during those games. Murray able to answer the first 3 of the night for Denver. They haven't lost on the road in a month, and he told us the defense a big reason why. But tonight they've allowed Utah to make 18 shots, 16 assists, and they've only forced 4 turnovers to be nice and warm.
It snows in the summer in Finland.
I'm just relaying the story. It's a valid point. 26. That was against Oklahoma City. Utah still getting after it defensively. Jokic off balance, doesn't matter. Drills a 3.
And he said that being a vocal leader has been a big challenge for him this season. He said he's getting more comfortable with it, but this is the first time he's one of the older guys.
Was fired, and we brought in a bunch of young guys. And I was in my 7th year. I still felt young as Christian Brown shows off some young legs. I still felt young.
First round pick before George. He was 9th overall out of UCF. They're hoping that he turns into a good player. He's been down in the G League as another 3 drops.
Dave Griffin, his general manager, said he still thinks he's a couple weeks away, but this is a different guy tonight.
When he was coming out and you guys were evaluating, obviously you weren't in a position. Porter throws it down on Valanciunas.
He doesn't need to.
Oh boy, couple of open lanes, which you don't normally see from this Pelican defense for dunkers.
The fast pace so far, a lot of quick shots going up and down, and teams getting easy layups too.
Oh, what a pass by Jokic, and great finish by Gordon. That's the 3rd slam already.
Night for the Bruins, not a good one.
Closing in on a minute to go here in the first. Denver by 4. Another 3 for Peyton Watson, and Denver's 4 of 6 from deep. Nice pass by by Murray, and Jordan with the slam. Willie Green again upset with the defense, calls a timeout. He's got 7 points here in the quarter, and the lead is 14. Good defense, Watson getting the steal and the slam.
He has had a tremendous first half. That last possession, he had a block. He contested C.J. McCollum and a steal here.
You know, in the NFL, they have a guy upstairs that's in charge of the challenge flag for the coaches. You should.
That's not super relevant to an NBA game, but
how about Jokic with an incredible pass to Aaron Gordon?
Can get you a great possession almost every single time in the half court.
Meanwhile, New Orleans on a 10-2 run. Here's Jokic in the middle of the lane.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Jokic trying to spin baseline, and Valanciunas then goes right at him. They don't blow the whistle. Jokic clearing space, gets the dunk.
You should have told me. I mean, I thought you would be on that, Dave. I just listened to the crowd get all excited.
Caldwell Pope hits a 3. That's the 12th triple-double.
See tonight, he wants his team to come out and win the first quarter. They have been outstanding when they do. The pass to Gordon is good, and a foul. No Tyrese Halliburton as Turner lets the 3 go that's short. Halliburton out with a hamstring injury, and Jokic another dunk. Murray stuck. Lob it into Gordon. What a pass. What a pass by Murray. He really had to have some touch there.
Making the noise that we heard Reggie Jackson making that like that too.
Murray rolls one home. Let's bring in Chris Dempsey. 97-91 Denver. Nuggets trying to get their 28th win of the season. Murray's down the lane and he lays it in to play. Nuggets trying to take out the Pacers here. Murray fall away from the baseline. That's good. Murray's had an excellent game.
All right. So as you can see, we had a pretty good week. We went 2-1. I predicted 3-0, but that game against Utah, you know, them guys came to play that night. They were at home. They had the momentum. They played really well. Denver played very sloppily. Denver played unserious. It seemed like they were very tired. I know I've seen a lot of people saying that they looked tired. But at the end of the day, they got to take care of business. They did the next game against New Orleans, so that was very nice to see. They came in. They played really well. They were tough. They were focused. They played with a lot of intensity. They played with intent, and they played like they wanted to win that game. So that was very good to see. Just got done watching the Indiana game just a minute ago. No Tyrese Halliburton. Bruce Brown's ring ceremony went great. Jokic and the guys and everybody showed him love. The fans showed him love. Bruce, you know what I'm saying? So shout out Bruce Brown. You're forever a champion, man. We're always going to love you in Denver. You're always welcome back. But we ended up winning that game pretty handily as well. Kind of a crazy game. The refs were just all over the place, man. They were just really not letting the big guys play whatsoever. But, you know, Denver comes out with the win regardless. And, you know, we end up finishing the week off 2-1. So all good in Nuggets Nation. So let's get into the article. Just a little backstory on this. What had happened was I was actually writing down my breakdown for the show today. And, you know, I'm going through and I'm listing off teams, right? I'm going through and I'm doing like little descriptions that I'm planning on telling you guys. You'll see it in a minute. And as I'm going through, I'm listing, you know, these trade targets. The way it looks is like very clean, organized, and like very, it reminded me of a Bleacher Report article. Now, I will say this article I've never seen done before in this manner. It's kind of a different take on trades themselves. So you know what? I'll just get into the actual details of it. We can kind of break it down like that. Unfortunately, you know, trying to keep this under 30 minutes. So I'm not going to break down the entire article for everybody, but I kind of wanted to highlight each team, you know, show each team their love. We're going to start with the Eastern Conference. So I'm doing 15 teams this week. I'll be doing 15 teams next. The start of the new year is a time of self-reflection and a chance to improve on weaknesses. It's also the beginning of actual trade season. Once December 15th recently signed restriction is lifted. With teams given some time to find out if they're actually as good as they thought and enough time to evaluate weaknesses themselves that they need to work on, I thought I'd go through and provide some options that I think they should target. Keep in mind, I didn't go through and try to trade for each of these players through the trade machine or anything like that. This is simply an exercise to show the kind of players they should target and just to get some ideas for fans. The targets are listed by a 1 to 5 star rating. Each rating considers the current contract, the value of the player, and a bit of the name of each player. The rating also considers how much said player should be valued on the market. A player like Lauri Markkanen, for example, is a good example because he's a player a ton of teams are going to target. So if your team does land him, that's a 5-star return. And point being, not all 5-star returns are equal. In some rare cases, some teams virtually have nothing to send back in a trade. So like I said before, I won't waste your time. With that said, we're just starting with the Eastern Conference this week by division. We'll start with the Atlantic Division and the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics are one of, if not the deepest teams in the league. Still, they have a lot of questions about age and injury prevention, with the front court featuring Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, and Lou Kornet. Scoring 2 guard off the bench would be nice too. As it turns out, there are a lot of backup big men that would be really helpful, and Boston does own all of their first-round picks until 2028, and enough seconds to sweeten any deal. So, the target I wanted to talk about with them that would make their trade deadline really interesting. If they can pluck Kelly Olynyk from Utah, he's making $12 million over 1 year. If they can get him from there, that's pretty scary. He is my 3-star target, so there are 2 guys, I believe, above him, or that would be better returns. And I also try to keep it realistic, right? Like I said, Boston does have all of their first-round picks until 2028, and they do have a lot of seconds. They have a lot of, different cap figures and stuff and contracts that they can work with. So if they wanted to, they can make it work to get Kelly Olynyk, I'm pretty sure. And I believe that's a great target for them. They need another big man. They need some more spacing. They can always use a guy who could shoot like that. Kelly Olynyk is one of the best big man shooters in the league. And he's a very smart player. He knows where to be at all times. He's a really good player, and I think the Celtics would be very happy to get Kelly Olynyk on their squad. Philly can use an upgrade at the 2. Melton is averaging 12 points in 29 minutes, and he's a good defender, but he's not big, and he shoots 36% from 3. A good big defender like OG Anunoby would have been a great option, but seeing as he just went to New York, here are some alternatives. They could also use a 4 and shift the lineup a spot to match the size and athleticism the other Eastern Conference contenders have. If they can add size, length, and shooting, all the better for 76ers fans. I want to talk about my 1-star return here. Philadelphia is in an interesting situation because they do got those picks from the Harden trade now. So they do have ammo to get a pretty good player back. So even their 1-star, who I'm about to mention, is a pretty good player, like a really good player. And I believe Nuggets fans are going to hate this, but I think he would be an amazing fit in Philadelphia, even if he is just a 1-star return. So keep in mind, there are going to be 4 guys who are better players listed higher than this. So 76ers fans should keep their hopes high with all the ammo that they have. But the 1-star I'm going to mention here is Gary Harris. $13 million over the next year. I could see Orlando being willing to part with Gary Harris for the right package, especially you get some good picks, maybe a young player back or, even a shooter or, something like that. I thought that was a pretty good target for them. Toronto just moved on from OG for RJ, but they could still be a big-time player in the trade scene. Pascal Siakam is a free agent after this year, and the Raptors would be smart to capitalize on his value while they still have him. Then again, this is the franchise that let FEV walk last year for nothing, so we'll see. They added a good skill guard in quickly, but they need more pieces to surround Scottie, specifically shooting. Plus, they're coming into this deal with enough ammo to get really crazy. We all know Pascal Siakam is probably not going to be a Raptor by the end of the year. They've already had talks with multiple teams. And like I said, they need some shooting, right? I want to talk about my 4-star return here for the Raptors. If the Raptors can get this 4-star return back, big if they can get Keegan Murray back from the Kings, I think that's a great haul. I doubt the Kings do give in and give Keegan up because I think that kid has a lot of potential, and I believe that the Kings believe in him even more than I do. But if Toronto could get Keegan back for Pascal, that's a big win. You have a core of Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett, Scotty Barnes, and Keegan Murray, and that's a good young squad. You have Jakob Pertl to hold it down until you get another center, or even keep him for a while, or you got options there. He stretches the floor. He's a great fit next to Scotty. They're very switchable, right? That's a wing duo I think Toronto could build on and be very proud of in the next few years. What up, New York? The Knicks just moved RJ for OG. What was interesting about that deal is that they managed to upgrade a position of need, but they did it for a fair cost. They reserve all 4 of their first-round picks for this year, with 2 more in 25 and each of their own firsts between 26 and 29. That, coupled with the roster carrying every type of movable salary there is, and you got a recipe for a big move. So, let's go big for New York. So I'm going to talk about my 5-star return here, and he's a 5-star return on a lot of these teams. But I believe that this is a great landing spot for him. If the New York Knicks can get Lauri Markkanen in there, I think that's a real contender in the East, man. Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, Lauri Markkanen, Josh Hart. If Mitchell Robinson can ever come back healthy, he's a great fit for all those guys. That team just 1 through 5 just fits like a glove, right? You got size, you've got shooting, you got one of the best defenders in the league, you got size on the wings, you've got every piece you need, and you got a number 1 guy and a number 2 guy. You can even do 1A, 1B with those guys, man. With Lauri and Jalen Brunson, I think they're both very capable of taking over at different times and different games and stuff like that, and having different situations where they can eat, either one can eat. I believe they can play together. If they can get a chemistry going and they can get a 2-man game, man, that's trouble, man. That's a real problem because they're both very smart players. I love that fit. It's going to be hard, but if anybody has a package to send Utah, it's the Knicks, man. I just listed off everything that they have. They have 4 picks in the first round this year. I didn't even know that. They have 4 picks in one draft this year. They have 2 next year, and they have the rest of theirs for the next, until 2029, 2030. They have enough seconds. They have every contract. Like, this is the time. New York needs to make a move. They need to get a star. If they can get Lauri, man, like, that's a problem. So let's hit up our other New York squad, the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn cashed in on the KD and Kyrie era, and the Nets got a return of a bunch of wings that could shoot and defend. If I'm Brooklyn, I'm looking for guys to surround Mikal with. But if the right package comes along, I'd be willing to move on from him. On the other hand, the Nets don't have their own first in the next few upcoming drafts, so losing isn't beneficial. You know what? Let's go big, and let's get some help in BK. So I want to talk about my 4-star return. Let me just lay the groundwork. Nick Claxton is probably not going to be in Brooklyn next year. Lately, they've seen that Day'Ron Sharpe kind of fits their, scheme a little bit better. They have a pretty good guard in Dinwiddie. Cam Thomas is a good young guy, good young guard, capable of going off any night. They have a lot of pretty good pieces, right? I think they would be wise to call up Cleveland and ask about Dono, man. I think Donovan Mitchell would be an amazing fit there. Spencer Dinwiddie, Donovan Mitchell, Mikal Bridges, and, whatever, Cameron Johnson, and maybe Day'Ron Sharpe, right? That's not a bad team at all. That's a really good team. They fit really well together. They've got scoring all over the place, a lot of spacing. That's a ton of spacing right there. Dinwiddie's a great one-on-one guy. He's one of the better one-on-one guys in the league. He can, get that drive and kick game going. Dinwiddie's a big guard, whereas, the fit with Mitchell and Garland right now is kind of wonky because they're both really small. I think that's a package that realistically could get done. All right, let's hit Middle America here. Start with the big city, Chicago, the Windy City, home of Michael Jordan. home of a bunch of fans that like to boo elderly ladies. I'm not going to let you live that down, Chicago. That was despicable. I know, I'm wearing a White Sox hat too. If you see my previous episodes on trades, you see my thoughts on Chicago. For those new, I'm a big proponent of Chicago rebuilding. The Lonzo, Caruso, Levine, DeRozan, and Vooch experiment was effective. It was a good team. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end, even if it's prematurely. Chicago is pretending they can make a run. The truth is, they just got left behind. They also own all of their own picks besides 25. If I'm them, I aim for picks, I aim for expirings, and youth. Use Levine, DeRozan, and Vooch to get any return you can. Each of those guys have decent value and should net you a decent return. And since Chicago has so many available guys, I'm just going to be real vague with this one. So this one, like I said, I'm real vague about it. I'm not targeting specific players so much. More like ideas, that's kind of the point of the article, right? Is kind of give fans ideas of like people that they should kind of be thinking about. And, I try to get creative with it and bring you guys some targets that, you might not normally see on, Bleacher Report or Sports Illustrated or whatever. So I wanted to go with my 4-star return here for Chicago. The fans of this guy, of his team, right? I'm talking about Keegan Murray, right? I already mentioned him before. Listen, Kings fans, I'm not trying to get your guy out of there. I understand. I know you love him. I understand. You guys probably want to keep him. I understand that. But in order to get a return, right, a very good player or two or whatever it is, you got to give something up. Personally, is Keegan Murray worth Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan? No, not in itself. Maybe, Chicago could send you a package, with Caruso involved and different pieces or whatever. Like I said, it's not 100% realistic. It is within the realm of possibilities. Chicago, if you could get Keegan Murray back, ditto about everything I said about going to Toronto. He's a good shooter. He's a good size, good wing. He can shoot. He can post. He's a versatile guy. He's a very good player. He's got some explosion. He's a great player. He's someone, basically what I'm looking for Chicago is a building block. They don't have building blocks. I personally don't believe in Kobe White. I believe a lot of guys could do what he's doing right now. If they can get another one, all the better. Milwaukee, the Bucks. Malik Beasley is averaging 29 minutes a game, and Jay Crowder is averaging 27. Both of those guys are getting way more minutes than they should be getting. It's painfully obvious that Milwaukee should be looking into a backcourt partner for Dame that is low usage and can defend the other team's lead guard. It will be a tall task with no real draft capital, so, as I mentioned before, we're just going to go ahead and forfeit their chance at a 5-star return. They have no ammo to go get a star player by any means, okay? Milwaukee fans, you have nothing. I looked it up, man. I don't even understand how you guys got to this point. It's fucking wild. You guys have like 2 second-round picks in like the next 10 years or some shit. I don't understand what you did. Let me hit you with my 3-star, okay? And I mentioned him before, but this guy I think would be amazing in Milwaukee, and I believe he's gettable for you guys. I believe, I don't know what you're going to send. Like I said, I didn't go through the trade machine and try this. But if you could get $13 million scraped up together and, a young player or so in there, Beauchamp or something, I don't know, maybe Orlando loves them. But if you can get Gary Harris, man, I think that's a great, great option next to Dame Lillard, man. Gary doesn't need the ball in his hands a lot. He's a pretty good shooter. He's actually been a much better shooter since he's went to Orlando. I just think he's a really good player, man. He's a good defender, right? Your defense isn't going to be leaking fucking holes all over the place with Dame Lillard and Malik Beasley in your backcourt. And I just love the idea of Gary Harris taking Malik Beasley's starting spot. Petty. Cleveland thought they had the next super team in the making when they traded for Donovan Mitchell last year. But if they could, would they trade Mitchell for Markkanen back straight up at this point? Answer that in the comments below. I would really want to know. I think that's a very, very interesting question. Do you think, all picks aside, all that stuff aside, if they never were even traded for each other and you don't have this history or anything, would you trade Donovan Mitchell straight up for Lauri Markkanen at this point? So anyway, with injuries and a pretty significant loss in the playoffs last year, the Cavs have proven that the team they built isn't all that it was hoping, and and with pretty much no draft ammo anymore, they'll have to get creative. The Cavs have a middle-of-the-pack offensive rating, bottom 10 in points per game, and only 5 teams are worse at three-point percentage, a problem that they had solved with the addition of Max Strus. If the spacing can come from a big man next to Mobley or Allen, all the better. I want to get into my 5-star return for the Cavs. Now, you're probably going to have to give up Jared Allen at some point. I'm not a believer of the Jared Allen, Evan Mobley front court, so I propose this to the Cavs. With not much ammo, keep that in mind, I think you would be wise to get this guy into the building, Nikola Vucevic. Vuce is a very good center, man. People hate on him because he makes all this money, and he's in Chicago, where they're losing right now, and he gets a lot of blame. He only has 3 years left, right? He signed that big contract, but he's only got a few years left, and I think that's perfect amount of timing, right? You give Evan Mobley some time to get bigger, stronger, so that he can take over that center position. Vooch gets to age out a little bit, but he also fits next to Mobley like seamlessly, right? You get a big body who can shoot, who can spread the floor. He can he can handle pick and pop, pick and roll. He can handle some of the bigger guys in the post. I think he's just a good matchup. And then, he can handle the low post duties and let Evan Mobley do his thing off ball. I think that's a great return for the Cavs with what little they have. Indiana has the league's best offense and one of the worst defenses, even though they've been better lately. But they still lack the defensive talent to be a good enough defensive team night in, night out, and when the chips are down come playoff time. I would love to see Mathurin move to the 2 and for them to look for a good perimeter stopper at the wing. Now, OG would have been amazing here, but unfortunately, he's with the Knicks now. So let me hit you with my 2-star here. Gary Payton II. If you call up the Warriors right now, they're selling everybody. Our Gary Payton II is one of the better defenders in this league. If you can get Gary Payton on the cheap, he's a 2-star return in my opinion, so I think he's gettable. I think he's very gettable for the Pacers. If you could get him, he can play off ball with Tyrese. He's a good cutter. He's athletic. Man, for Golden State, man, he was playing power forward and stuff. To me, I think he just fits that team so well. The athleticism, the speed, the way he cuts, right? I think he's a pacer. I just think he just seems like he'd be a great pacer. Detroit basketball. Detroit is the worst team in the league. Virtually anything would be an upgrade. If the goal is to build around Cade Cunningham, Detroit needs scoring. Shooting, to be specific. A big man he could build chemistry with and grow with would be nice as well. They should really be aiming at young guys. I want to offer this one. I doubt it's going to get done. I doubt, these guys even talk. I don't think this is realistic. I don't think they would give this guy up. But, I think this would be a great fit in Detroit. If the Pistons can get Trey Murphy from the Pelicans, think about it, right? These are the type of players you need when you win a championship, right? Or that you want to have on your roster to contend for a title. He's only making $7 million over the next 2 years. He does have a bit of an injury bug, but with the Pistons, I believe he could he could really blossom, man. Him and Cade, I think, could be a great duo. Him and Jalen Duren, right? He just fits seamlessly. You got your creative guard right there that can go in and make plays for you. You got your wing that can spot up and, create a little bit himself. And then you got a big athletic, defender at the rim, athlete, and then you got Alsar Thompson. You got a few guys there that could really blossom. And, they just need some spacing. They need some shooting. And Trey Murphy's one of the better shooters in the league. I got to pick this up a little bit too. This is starting to run long. The Trae Young, DeJounte Murray pairing is going to go down as one of the worst trade turnouts in recent memory. The Hawks sent a ton of draft capital for Murray, who will probably be shipped before the deadline for half the haul they sent to acquire him. The bright side is that they own 2 firsts in the next draft, have a ton of movable contracts, and a ton of young pieces that are valued around the league. Personally, I think Atlanta should cash in with the assets they have and get Trae a legit star to play with, one that fits better than Murray did. But we all know stars aren't usually available, so they might have to settle for someone who's just a good fit. And there's some really good targets on here. But let's do 5-star on this one. I'm going to do 5. Let's say the Lakers suck really bad. And they're like, you know what? We're done with this. We're not going to make the playoffs. Maybe we should just give up on the whole thing of that whole AD LeBron experience. Get some young guys back. You never know, right? The NBA, I've seen crazy stuff happen. But if Atlanta got Anthony Davis, man, that is the perfect player next to Trae Young. You bring in a guy like Anthony Davis, man, he literally covers every weakness Trae has. Trae covers every one he has. They'd be a great pick and roll partnership. I think he'd be very beneficial to Anthony Davis's game as well. I just think that's a great fit. At the end of the day, I think my 1 through 4 stars are definitely a lot more realistic, but you're going to have to see the article for that to happen for you to check that out, because there's some very good targets on there for Atlanta. The Wizards. If history tells us one thing about the Wizards, it's that they will trade for a star player who will have them fight for a play-in spot. What they should do is focus on the rebuild and send Kuzma, Tyus Jones, DeLon Wright, and anybody else over the age of 25 out of there. If you can't find the picks you want, they could add expirings, young players who can't crack their respective team's rotation, and if they must, maybe a vet or two who could teach this team what winning means and what it takes. One guy here that I think would be really good. Let's say OKC is out on the Josh Giddey business. If I'm the Wizards, I'm calling him. You can get Josh Giddey back, partner next to Jordan Poole. I think that works wonderfully. I believe they cover a lot of each other's weaknesses. I think they're a really good fit. Poole isn't as good as I thought he was going to be. Definitely not as good of a scorer as I thought he was going to be. I thought he was going to be at least be in the 20s. But dude's averaging like 16 a game. He's a very young guy. I think he's like 21, 22 years old. If OKC's out on him with this whole allegation stuff going on with him, maybe Washington picks up the phone and asks about him. One of my favorite teams, Orlando, is one of the surprise teams of the season. Behind stingy defense and size all over the floor, they've become one of the top teams in the East so far. But they are 27th in the league in three-point percentage at around 35%. Franz and Paulo don't project as elite floor spacers, so if they can get a guy to come in and be that for them, think MPJ to Jokic and Jamal, right? I think it would take their game and that team to a whole other level. If they can't get a third option, even some fringe shooting on the edges would be a big help. So that's where we're going to focus on this one. I'm going to hit up my 3-star return on this one because I believe he's available, and I believe you could get him at a decent price, especially for young players, because that's what they're going to want in Portland. Hit up for Malcolm Brogdon. In Orlando, you guys should be valuing a point guard who can create for you guys in the playoffs in the half court, who could get a shot off, who can create for others, and is big enough and long enough that he fits in with your guys' mold of player. That's Malcolm Brogdon, baby. All right. He's a big dude. He can handle. He can shoot. He's a very good player. Just got to watch out for the injury thing. But Orlando, about injuries, man. You've had Jonathan Isaac on your roster since you drafted him. The Miami Heat, Kyle Lowry, has had a bit of a resurgence. 46% from the field, 43.4% from three. But I don't buy it. They also got bullied badly by a much bigger Nugget squad in the finals. And as much as I like Caleb, he's not a 4. Luckily, Jimmy and Bam are very versatile, so it makes it easier to fit in around them. Unfortunately, Heat culture just isn't for everybody. As far as tradable assets, they still have most of their own first, and if they really want to go and get back a 5-star return, they'll likely have to part ways with Tyler Herro. I think this one is interesting. I don't know how realistic it is, just because of salary purposes, but I believe he is available and very, very, very gettable. And I believe he would help the Heat a lot. Imagine Chris Paul, right? That guy. I honestly don't understand how he hasn't been a Heat player yet, right? He's basically what a Heat player is already. His contract is big as hell, but you got big contracts, right? Trade Duncan Robinson. They're one of the few guys who actually could take on Chris Paul's salary, and I believe he's a good fit there. Like I think you have a good point guard like that who could set up the offense and do everything that Chris Paul does and his leadership and everything like that. I think he'd fit in great with Bam and Jimmy, and set up that culture and play with them for the next couple of years and maybe win a title. All right, last but not least. Well, last but probably least. Charlotte Hornets. Charlotte has been one of the most forgettable franchises since I've come to existence. I literally couldn't remember who I had forgot to list with the 14 teams done. LaMelo Ball is a hooper's hooper. His bag is ridiculous, and he's one of the most talented players in the league. Unfortunately, I think most of us would agree he's probably not a true number one option if you're serious about winning a championship. Charlotte will most likely stand pat or make a move that doesn't move the needle much. But then again, they have new ownership since MJ sold, so maybe they'll go in a new direction. They also don't own their first in 24, so it would be wise to try to win some games this year. If I'm them, I'm swinging big, and I like my 4-star return a lot. If you can put together a package to get Mikal Bridges in Charlotte, I think you're cooking, man. You got his brother there already, right? You got the brothers. You get LaMelo Ball. Hey, man, go get Lonzo Ball too, man. You'll have the Bridges brothers and the Ball brothers on one team, right? That's a storyline that gets people talking about Charlotte a little bit, maybe. No, but I think it's a good fit. Like, honestly, basketball-wise, I think it's a good fit. Like, Miles Bridges and Mikal Bridges are two good wings, and, those two together, I'm sure, will be hyped as hell to play with each other. I think it could bring out the best in both of them because they're used to playing with each other for so long. And then, Mikal is such a great fit next to LaMelo. Your whole starting lineup is like 6'7" and taller. I think you've got something there. If you can put that together, I doubt it. That's why it's my 4-star return. But if you could put something together like that, I think that's a great fit. All right. So that's my Eastern Conference review trade deadline article thing that I wrote for you guys. Please go check it out. I'm going to have it posted for you guys by today. So please, please, please go check it out. I worked really hard on it. I spent hours and hours doing it. And as you guys know, I'm sure I work a full-time job, spending hours sitting here doing all this research and stuff like that. I do it because I love it and I want to give you guys some great, great content. And I really believe in this. Like, I think this is such a cool article. I think it's such a cool spin to not just, like the Bleacher Reports and all these places, like they just go through and they'll like make up these little fake trades or whatever. And, everybody hates them all the time. Everybody just criticizes all of them all the time. So I wanted to, try a different spin and, give teams options. But with that said, let's get into our weekly look ahead. We're playing 3 teams next week. So hitting up Philly, Boston, Washington, and I believe we're going to be in Indiana the next week after that. But that will be on next week's episode. So Tuesday, January 16th, away game versus Philadelphia. Nikola Jokic has averaged 22.4 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 7.8 assists in 14 games versus the 76ers in his career. Joel Embiid has averaged 24.5, 10.9 rebounds, and 3.3 assists in 8 games versus the Nuggets in his career. Shade incoming. Joel Embiid's last game versus the Nuggets in Denver happened in the 2019-2020 season on November 8th. On this night, the 76ers choked a 21-point lead in the fourth quarter. Jokic hits the game-winning shot and leaves 1.2 seconds on the clock. But on the next possession, Joel fouls out of the game in the last second after committing an offensive foul on Jokic. Nuggets win. The last game he was available to play and played against Denver was January 28th, 2023. This is the infamous 47-18 game that Philly fans will never let us forget. I believe this is another go-around for rivalry week. The 76ers are 6th in points per game. They're tied for 4th in blocks per game. They're also 3rd in plus-minus with an 8.1 just behind Boston and OKC. Tyrese Maxey is still considered a strong favorite for most improved player. He's a minus 240 right now, even though he has struggled a bit lately. The Jokic and Embiid matchup will be the main center point of contention, but the Jamal Murray-Tyrese Maxey battle will likely be the factor that swings that game. Friday, January 19th, away versus the Celtics, TD Garden. Nikola Jokic has averaged 21.5 points, 10.3 rebounds, 6.5 assists in 15 games versus the Celtics in his career. Jason Tatum has averaged 21.8 points, 5.9 rebounds, and 4.8 assists in 12 games versus the Nuggets in his career. The Boston Celtics are widely considered to be the best team in the league by most experts. With a starting lineup of Drew Holiday, Derek White, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis, it's hard to argue against it. They are number 1 in net rating, number 1 in rebounding, and percentage of points they score off of three-pointers. They're not a great ball movement team. I believe they're like 22nd in the league in assists per game. Derek White is their leading assist per game guy. He's averaging like 5.5. A lot of ISO scoring from Tatum and Brown. They're a very, very good drive and kick team. They have a lot of shooting on the roster. Drew Holiday should be assigned to Jamal, but even if not, like Derek White is a very good defender. He should have opportunities there. Jokic is also going to have a tough matchup with the length of Kristaps Porzingis, the strength of Al Horford, and the versatility of Jason Tatum. If Denver gets strong contributions from their role players, namely, I believe AG should have a good game here, and they're going to need it. I believe Denver could win if that's the case. The bench will also need to play well because Denver starters will likely not be able to get up a big lead. So that bench is going to have to help, and they're going to have to win their minutes. Sunday, January 21st, we are away against the Wizards. Nikola Jokic has averaged 21.5 points, 10.3 rebounds, and 6.5 assists in 15 games versus the Celtics in his career. Jordan Poole has averaged 14.4 points, 2 rebounds, and 4.3 assists in 10 games versus the Nuggets in his career. The Nuggets get a bit of a reprieve after nearly 2 weeks of very competitive teams. The Wizards are one of the worst teams in the league, arguably the worst, at 7 wins and 31 losses. They've recently made a trade for Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Livers from the other worst team in the league, the Detroit Pistons. They're the worst team in the league in rebounding, the 4th worst in net rating, and the 2nd worst defense in the league. For old pal Wes Unseld Jr., who was brought in because of his defensive acumen, things are not boding well in the nation's capital. Kyle Kuzma is the leading scorer on the team and the only player averaging 20 points per game, and he's at 22. The Wizards sent Bradley Beal to Phoenix this offseason in exchange for Chris Paul, who was then shipped to Golden State in exchange for Jordan Poole. Since coming to Washington, he's averaging 16 points, 2 boards, 4 assists. Not exactly what they were hoping for. Denver should gas on Washington, honestly. If they don't leave this game with an easy W, it would be sort of a disappointment. Yeah, we should be able to get out of there with a pretty good win. This is a tough week. Philly is a very good team. I think we could beat them. Like I said, I think we could beat them. We'll see if Joel plays. I'm pretty sure he will. I know people are going to make the joke that Joel ducks the Nuggets and stuff, but he actually does play when he's in Philly. So I assume he's going to be there, even though he has dealt with some injury stuff already this season. So, he's got to play enough games to win the MVP. So he's not going to duck a game in Philly. So I assume we're going to see him then. The Boston game is going to be really tough. We always have very good, hard games against Boston. They're a very good team, man. Jason Tatum's very good. Jaylen Brown is very good. Drew Holiday is very good. They just have a lot of good defensive guys that, talent-wise, they're a good matchup for Denver. I think Jokic could go off that night. And like I said, I think AG needs to step up big in that game. I think that's a big AG game. He's going to have to lock down Tatum. He's going to have to lock down Brown. He's going to have to put in some work on Porzingis probably at some points. And, he's going to have to contribute offensively and hit his shots and bully and all that stuff. And then the Wizards game, we should gas on them. They're not that good. Smoke them. But yeah, with that said, I appreciate you guys being here one more time. If you can, if you like the video, like it, and if you really like it, subscribe, because I do this every week. And I'm also going to be for you guys in the future, just so you know, I'm not going to be doing just basketball forever. I was planning on doing a football episode in preparation for the playoffs. That didn't end up working out. So I think the next alternate show I'm planning on bringing you guys is an MMA show. I'm going to be covering UFC 297, I think it is. That's coming up in the next couple weeks. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have a basketball episode that week. But I do want to do like one MMA episode and one basketball episode that week. We'll just see if I have the time for it. Like I said, I work overtime a lot of the time. So we'll see if I have the time to make 2 videos for you guys. But I do want to get into some other sports stuff as well, just so it's not like I'm only speaking basketball all the time, even though that is my number one passion. But yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. If you hit that like, thank you so much. If you hit that subscribe, I love you to death. You're the best ever. And go Nuggets.